This is a giant turnout. I'm speaking as an author who's been to book events with like one person, so congratulations to you two, and I'm so excited to be here with you. Welcome to Minnesota. Is this working? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you feeling?
Great.
Okay.
We were like terrified that it would be like, well, not, I mean, it would be us hanging out and we'd be happy to
Which
be
would be
hanging
amazing.
out.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so much.
This is their very first event together and live, probably for both of them, because Alison's debuts came out, or her debut came out in the pandemic, and her second book also came out in the pandemic. So live book events were not a thing, but here we are. So Alison is in the red, Brady is in the blue. Together they are Allie Brady, and away we go. Okay, who's giving us a quick synopsis of The Beach Trap?
You're it.
Okay. All right, so we initially came up with this idea as a twist on the Parent Trap. So but we thought, what if instead of the girls, meeting at camp, finding out their sisters, what if instead of them trying to get their parents together, we fast forward through the years, and now it's their parents trying to get them back together. And so that's where it was born. So it's about two girls who meet at summer camp and find out that they are half-sisters. They share a father. One of them was raised by him. The other one wasn't. So there's some drama there. And when they find this out, it sort of destroys their relationship. They were best friends at camp. It ruins everything. They don't see each other for 15 years until their father passes away and leaves them a rundown old beach house in Florida. And one of the girls wants to keep the house because it was her grandparents' beach house and she has memories there. The other one wants to sell it. And so to resolve this, they...
Oh, okay.
We
didn't practice this. So one wants to keep the house, one wants to give it away, and they
sell it.
Sorry. I swear I only had one sip of wine. One wants to sell it, and they come up with an agreement that they are going to spend the summer fixing up the house, and then at the end of the summer they'll make a decision if one sister can buy the other out. If not, they're selling. So the story goes over the summer as they repair the house and their relationship, and they both have a love interest, so there's some romance in there. And there's a cute dog and a kid, and it ends happily ever after.
Yes, by the end they figured out how to be a family.
So hopefully that's not a spoiler alert. I mean, by the cover you can tell it's not like a sad, depressing book.
It is actually a fantastic book and the perfect book to start your summer vacation, so we are right on time here. You have agreed to give us a quick reading, haven't you? Okay,
yes.
so just to give a taste of the two voices and everything that's happening in this book.
We practiced earlier, but only once, so
yes.
Hopefully it works, and we were not holding a microphone when we practiced.
Yes, so should we set it up? Okay, so this is the part where when they find out that they've been given the house, Blake, who actually lives outside of Minneapolis, that's one of the women, she lives outside of Minneapolis, she's a nanny for a wealthy family, and the family all went to France and left her there to watch the dog. So she's come down to Destin, Florida, and Kat, who grew up in Atlanta, she's going to read Kat, in a very wealthy family, doesn't want to sell the house, and so they are coming up with this agreement. This is where they are actually coming up, and it's been a contentious relationship so far.
And this is like the first time they've seen each other in like 15 years.
years.
So,
okay,
yeah.
All right, where are we starting again?
I think there.
Okay, so Blake is on the phone with her friend, and then she hears a door at the back of the house opening and closing, and then the stomping of feet. It's Hurricane Kat coming in like a Category 5. Hey, Martina, she says to her friend on the phone, I gotta go. I hang up as Kat barges out onto the deck, her jaw set in the stubborn way I remember from camp. Like the day she'd been determined to conquer the rock climbing wall, even though she was terrified of heights and had fallen 3 times already. Right now, I'm pretty sure Kat sees me like that wall, as a problem to be conquered. I stand, determined not to let her look down on me more than necessary.
Like I said, Kat says, brisk and businesslike, I can't buy you out now, but if you give me to the end of the summer, I'll figure it out. And in the meantime, I've decided that I'll let you update the house.
I struggle mightily not to roll my eyes. Great. Thanks so much for letting me do something I have every right to do.
She shoots me a withering glare, then continues. I want to make sure you don't change anything without clearing it with me first. I have certain standards for my house.
It's half mine, so maybe I'll just fix up half of it, I snap, then bite my tongue. It's not just that I hate confrontation. I also hate getting emotional in front of people. I've learned to keep my emotions inside until I know I can trust someone, and I definitely can't trust Kat.
The house belongs to both of us, she says, her tone implying that she isn't happy about that. So we should both be involved in fixing it up.
You're welcome to stay here all summer and work alongside me. Okay, keeping going. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm calling her bluff. The thought of Kat with safety glasses on her face and sawdust in her hair is laughable, as unlikely as me getting dressed up in designer clothes and doing the hashtag catwalk for Instagram likes.
I'm not staying here if you're here, she says, as expected. We'll have to trade off. I get a week, then you get a week.
I'm not going to waste money on a hotel when I own half a beach house, and I can't drive back and forth to Minnesota each week.
We're here. That's not my problem, Kat says.
Yes, it is, because you're the one who doesn't want to stay here together. I assume this will make her back down. I'd love if she would go back to Atlanta until I'm done.
I think that's you.
Oh, Kat's eyes light up like something has occurred to her. It's the same look she got when she talked me into sneaking out of our cabin one night to take a canoe out on the lake. I was terrified that we were going to be caught and punished. It ended up being fun. Magical, actually, staring up at stars, the boat rocking with the waves, but I'm not in the mood to entertain positive memories of Kat Steiner. My shoulders tense in anticipation of what she's going to say next.
Since you don't appear to have a problem with a little construction, she says, how do you feel about cleaning? My friend lost her housekeeper. You could stay in their casita. They won't even be there until the 4th of July. They need someone to tidy up the main house, make sure it's clean and dusted when they come back. They'd even pay you. It'll be easy money, and you can stay there the weeks that I'm here.
I bristle. Kat thinks of me as hired help, someone she can farm out to her rich friends. I open my mouth to spit out a retort, but then close it again. I refuse to spend the summer allowing Kat to get under my skin. All right, there we go.
Awesome, thank you. It occurs to me that people might need to know, so these girls were friends at camp, and then there's a very dramatic moment that separates them, which is that they find out that they have the same father. And then after that, they never speak again. I don't think you mentioned that part, right? So, yeah.
I think so.
Okay,
It's
we'll do
okay.
that.
I'm sure I said
Just
that
so
better.
people wouldn't be confused. Okay, here's what I want to know. Everyone here knows that Minnesota is the best state in the 50, but neither of you live here, so why the Minnesota connection for this book?
Was it me? I think
It was
that
because of the camp.
because the camp. So I grew up going to Camp Birchwood, which is in Steamboat Springs, I think on Steamboat Lake. And so camp to me has always been Minnesota. And so when we were creating this fictional camp, we decided to set it in Minnesota, and that's where we decided to have Blake living there, and Kat lives in Atlanta.
Yes,
It's been a while since we wrote it. I
yes.
have to remember.
And their father went to the camp when he was a child, the boys' side of the camp, and so that's why they both end up going there.
Yes.
Yes. And there's a little Easter egg in the book if you've read Kathleen's books.
Yeah, it's exciting. For me, it's exciting. Blake, the nanny who works in the wealthy town suburb that she works in is Liston Heights, which is the place that two of my books are set. It's a fake Edina. It's Edina, but you know. Okay, so yeah, no, it's Edina. Here's what we want to know. Your origin story as a duo. Like, how does someone get to this point where you have written a book together, it's coming out together? How did this partnership come to be?
Well, it started because I stalked her online. We're both in a writing group community called Women's Fiction Writers Association. Some members are here tonight. And we were in a pitch contest together, and it was something where we post just samples of our writing, and hers were really good. Not surprisingly, but I was like, she's really good. I want to be her friend. And then there was I'm serious. And then there was an opportunity for us to trade pages, and we traded pages, and we both really liked each other's writing and our critique style. And I remember you were the first one who called me your critique partner, and that's like going steady in the world.
It is. It's like, will you be my critique partner?
It was a big deal. It was a big deal, and I was so flattered because I'm such a big fan of her. So that's how we met and became critique partners. Do you want to tell the back half how we became co-authors?
So, we met initially when we were both trying to find agents, and then fast forward, and we found agents, and Alison sold books, and then it was the middle of the lockdown phase of the pandemic. It was like April 2020. We were both stuck at home. I was homeschooling, 4 kids, like many of us were. Allison was working 100% from home. And one day we were just talking about book ideas. Allison had a book idea, and she said, is this crazy? Is this, dumb? And I was like, no, in fact, it actually goes really well with a book idea I have. And so, we were just like, let's start writing a book together. I mean, it really was like that fast.
And it the fact that we're here is so surreal because it was like an idea. And like the fact that it actually happened, it's still kind of like just a pinch me moment. So it's pretty cool.
And how do you make that work? Because you don't live in the same place, and I would imagine, like, how does the process work to like get the draft on the page and the revisions done and all of that stuff? Give us a little nitty gritty.
So we outline extensively, very detailed. Yes. I mean, we have to know everything that's going to happen in each chapter. And so this book is written from the points of view of Kat and Blake, which makes sense, right? And so we each took the lead on drafting one character's chapter, and they alternate back and forth. But then after our schedule is we write a chapter one week, and then we would swap chapters, and we would critique each other's chapters and edit it. And so one of us was drafting, but the other one was editing it, and then we would just keep revising.
One of the things that I've really loved is like not telling people who wrote what, and we have revealed it on a couple of different things, but it's so fun. Like Lainey, who's here, she was like trying to figure out who was who, and she would see parts of me and Kat, but then she would see parts of me and Blake, and she would see parts of Brady and Blake, and parts of Brady and Kat. And I think that made me so happy because some people say that it feels like one person wrote it, and we really did have our hands in all of it. So that's just been a cool experience.
Can you identify like sentences or paragraphs that are one person's or another still, or is it
so
just
really,
so mashed up?
Really funny story. Because, so first of all, and one of the reasons I think that we write so well together is that as critique partners, in my second book, Little Pieces of Me, there's one line in particular that reviewers always call out as loving, and she wrote it. So like, we were very involved in each other's books. But something that we both do, she called me out on it first, and then I realized she did it too. When we're reading like the second draft or the third draft, we'll both love the lines we added. And it's like, we don't.
Like Alison will like highlight and be like, this sentence is so beautiful, and like, you wrote it.
And then she's like, I love this. And I'm like, you wrote it.
Our second book is that we just turned the draft in, is set in Chicago, and she added in all this stuff about Chicago, and then she'd be like, you did so good. I'm like, you look at it.
We're each other's biggest cheerleaders.
That's really funny, and I'm skipping ahead on my list a little bit because I want to ask about co-writing the sex scenes.
Oh, God.
This book, like, if you've read my work, you know I'm highly prudish, and there's like almost nothing in them. But this book is not like that. Quite steamy and exciting for summer. So how did those scenes come to be? Who writes them? How do they get edited?
So
etc.
Brady denies this, but when we were first talking about the book, it was going to be closed door, which means
No, it was not.
But her character got to that point first, and she wrote open door. I'm like, well, I have to then.
Yes.
And Brady can make watching a movie or stripping wallpaper like so steamy. And so we both write each other's, but again, there's that editing process also. But this book, like the very last minute, the last chance you could touch the book, she upped the steam, like she turned it up on her character. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's not fair. And so she did it to mine too.
Yeah, she asked me to.
I did.
Really?
I'm like, that's not fair that Blake can have a better experience. Okay. Don't tell.
Okay, I feel like I have some follow-up questions there, but I'll just leave that. I kind of want to know about the love interest. Like, how did you decide what kind of partner each of the women needed? I assume that the Blake and Kat came first, and their love interest came second. True?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk about developing the right partner for each character?
Do you want to take Noah and I'll take Henry?
Sure. So Noah is Blake's love interest, and he's the groundskeeper at the little casita that she's staying at, and he is, at the beginning of the book, he's incredibly scruffy, has a giant beard that goes down his neck.
It's gross.
He's very snarky. He's super snarky, very sarcastic. They do a lot of bantering. I think I just wanted somebody that was pretty snarky, he has sort of a past that Blake doesn't know about at first, and he's also, as Blake is working on the house, he starts to get involved in helping her around the house, and he is not good at doing anything around the house. And I thought that was just interesting having them, being different. Blake is very handy, very practical, can learn anything, and he's not good, and she's always having to fix his paint drips and that type of thing.
And one thing that I love about their relationship, about Blake and Noah, is that Blake has to come to terms with, like, their relationship helps her come to terms with, like, her relationship with her father and with men, and it's a very, there's a lot there, which I love. For Henry, we just realized, good job us, both of their romances really help their growth. They're like,
it's amazing. It's like we thought about their character arc.
Brady's the one who is really good at that stuff. But anyway, so Kat is an Instagram influencer, and so she's very into superficial things. She's very into likes. She's very into appearances, and she's very snobby. And so there's even a line that makes me cringe a little bit. But we were talking about reading reviews, and there have been a lot of reviews where people do not like Kat at the beginning, but they come to like her at the end and understand her growth. And there's she has a line about Henry being cute, but she's more into white collar guys and he's a blue collar guy. And so she's a snob. So we wanted a guy for her that would help her grow and kind of get over her superficialness and just realize he's just the guy that she needs. He's a really good guy. Eric was saying,
He's a single dad.
He's a single dad. He runs a handy business, and
he's good with his hands.
We think that they're gonna both be book boyfriends, we hope.
Yeah.
So far Noah's gotten a lot more love than Henry. But Henry, you were saying Henry's the kind of guy you want in your real life.
Yeah, if I was gonna marry somebody, it would be Henry, absolutely.
But you're already married to somebody else.
And he's a lot like Henry.
And Noah. He's tall.
A lot more like Henry.
Yeah.
Okay, the book is a lot about sisters, as we've talked about already, but why a sister story? Do you have sisters in real life? Have you used some dynamics from your relationships with your sisters here?
We both have sisters, and they are both Elizabeth.
Yep.
Oh.
So they go by different names. So we actually thought, and our next book is also about sisters, and we're like, what if they're both named Elizabeth? The parents just got really lazy, and we realized that would be...
readers might have a hard time with that.
So only one of them is Elizabeth and goes by Libby. But we both have, and I think our relationships with our sisters really impacts our next book. Because we both have, you're the oldest too, right? Mm-hmm. We're both the oldest and both have younger sisters, Elizabeth. But I think that it definitely is more in our next book because they grow up as sisters. With this, they're best friends who fall apart and then kind of learn to become sisters again. So I feel like this one, I don't know if you would agree, but it's more about that best girlfriend friendship. And it's, bonus that they are sisters.
Yeah, and they have to learn how to be sisters. At the beginning, they do not. I think there's even a part where they, somebody says, your sister. I think Noah says to Blake, your sister. And she's like, she's not my sister.
Mm-mm.
They do not think of each other as sisters at the beginning.
Okay, I love that. The book is about a lot of things. Sisters and appearances and secrets and authenticity, misunderstanding. What are the big ideas that stick out to you which were most interesting for you to develop as you wrote the book?
You ask such good questions.
I'm a professional English teacher.
She's going to ask us to identify similes.
Not it.
I think one of the biggest themes that we talked a lot about was how the past affects your present and your future, and how are you defined by that past? Do you make a different choice for your future as you're moving forward? Because each of these girls are grieving their father, but he was a completely different person to each of them in their lives, and so they really are grieving different people, and it's painful for them as they get to know the father that the other girl had. They had a different version, and it's hard for them to reconcile that.
That's what I was going to say.
Sorry.
But for me, I think that it is that you have to stop a minute and think about the other person's perspective, and that they are both so hurt that they're not thinking about what each other went through, and that's a big part of it. And again, like Brady said, we had a lot of conversations about they're grieving the same person, but one of them grew up with him and one of them didn't, and one of them they had such different relationships with him that it created a lot of conflict, and it was some good deep hurt that we got to try and resolve.
Yeah, when I was looking at it just to prepare for tonight, I had read it a long time ago before it was published, and I loved it so much then, and I love it even more now. But I actually felt like Kat's career as an Instagram influencer kind of paralleled what you're saying about the dad, like the real versus the fake, or not fake, but just like curated or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to know about that. Like, what do you think about the role social media plays in Kat's life and Blake's life, and how they deal with being their real selves and the selves that they are presenting to the world?
Well, that's such an interesting question, and it is a big learning moment for Kat. And she hasn't even told her followers that her dad died. Like, she is like portraying this image that she thinks that the world wants. And, you know, social media, it gets a lot of slack, and there's definitely some like really terrible things about it. But there's also amazing things, like the connections, like the Bookstagram community, the author community. Like, you know, there are people here that we've never met in person, but we know from that community, and like that's amazing. And I think that it's a truth that people resonate when you're authentic. Like, I know for my, you know, having 2 books come out during the pandemic, there were moments where I was like, this is really hard, and I like put it out there and was honest, and the response that I got back was so much better than if I was like, everything is great, because everybody knows that not everything is great for anybody. So I think that it was a nice point of growth for her to realize, you know, who she is and who she wants to portray to the world.
Okay, I want to give a chance for people to ask their own questions, and then I have a lightning round for us to finish with. But before I open it up, maybe just one more. You mentioned the Easter egg of Liston Heights, which I, of course, loved so much. But I had a sense that there were a few others in there. What other like insider details can you tell us that only you'd have to tell us in person to pick up the little nugget?
So Blake eats peanut butter and brown sugar sandwiches.
They're so good.
And that was, my great-grandmother would make those, and I grew up eating peanut butter and brown sugar sandwiches. I'm assuming it was like a depression food, right? Like they ate it during the Depression when they didn't have, I don't know, jam or something. But I made Alison, she wanted to eat one, and so when we were together for a research trip last May, in Destin, we made her one, and we thought it was good.
There's a video of me trying it, and it is delicious. It's like crunchy. It tastes like, it's almost like crystallized honey. It's really, really good.
It tastes a lot like peanut butter and honey, but it sort of crystallizes. And so a lot of people have called that out, actually. A lot of reviewers, people have DM'd me on Instagram saying, I made myself a peanut butter and brown sugar sandwich today.
It's really good. And another thing, there's a recipe in the book that Kat makes for Blake in this moment, and it's their dad's famous Fettuccine Alfredo, and that is my dad's famous Fettuccine Alfredo. When I was a kid, I actually thought my dad was like a really good cook, and then I realized he cooked like 2 things. But when I was down in Florida a few weeks ago, we made like a cooking show where he like cooked the recipe, and so it was pretty cute. He's like, no, you add salt, and he was like, it was really cute. So as soon as I have a minute to cut it together, we'll share it on Instagram. But there was also like, there's things that I even forgot, like. There was something, my mom was reading it, and we both put things about our grandfathers in there. Mm-hmm. Like, your grandfather had, like, was it butterscotch, or you, like?
Yeah,
Peach Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah, Peach Jolly Ranchers. Yep, that was my grandpa. And his nickname was Peachy. And he ate Peach Jolly Ranchers, and yeah, we would go fishing, and he would always pull out Peach Jolly Ranchers. We got cranky, Peach Jolly Ranchers.
And my grandfather would hide a shoe. You could never take your shoe off around him. Like, if you took your shoes off, he would hide one, and it would always be in plain sight. But I think
so you wouldn't leave. Is that what it was?
I bet.
That's what Kat says in the book. You wrote that.
So I pre-ordered the audiobook on Libro FM, and I'm going to listen to it again because it's been a while.
The audio is really good if you like audiobooks. It's really, really well done.
And Libro FM, if you guys don't know, it benefits indie bookstores, so it's great.
Okay, what do you want to know? Questions?
I wanted to know how you would name your characters. Is it like naming a baby where you come up with lists of what the possibilities are and then kind of by process of elimination knock them off, or do you do your like friends and family characters after them?
Cat was Cat, like from the start. I don't know why. You know what? I think that we thought of Catwalk, and like that was kind of like just like, it was kind of a cool name. My mom's name is Catherine, and it seemed like it was just Cat was a cool name. But how many names did Blake go through?
We went through a lot of names for Blake. I wanted her to have like an androgynous name. And so we went, she was Evan at first.
Yeah.
Her name was Evan. And then it was Devon.
Which
But
is too much
then
like Destin.
the story takes place in Destin, so we couldn't do that. So then we went on Instagram. I went on Instagram in my stories, and I asked people to help me. I just gave a description of her, and I got lots and lots of ideas, and Blake just stuck out. Except I then realized when my brother-in-law, my 50-year-old brother-in-law, named Blake, asked to read the book, and I was like, I didn't even realize that. But I was like, oh, there's a character named Blake, and she's 27, and she's a girl, and she has sex.
So we were together trying to come up with our next books, and we were trying to come up with names. And so we were like, okay, when were the characters born? What names were popular then? And we literally went through the list. We're like, nope. And we're like, could we write naughty things about a person with that name? Do we have anybody related to us that we would not want them to think about? And then we did a poll. We did a battle of the names, and we ended up getting down to 3. So it's a different, I don't have kids, so for me it's kind of it's nice to name, but you want a name that fits the personality. But when you have kids, you have no idea what they're going to end up like. So there's a benefit to a character, and you can kind of get a name that either says something about them or that they fit.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah.
Did you have any disagreements on particular edits, and if so, how did you resolve them?
Yeah, I mean, we did.
We had one that was so.
Okay.
But seriously, and I think people ask us about how to write with somebody, and I think the biggest thing is that you have to have love and respect for the other person.
Yeah.
And sometimes when one of us will disagree with something, it's okay, let's talk about it. And then when you talk about it, you're like, oh, okay, I see that point, or you can change it. And we are not precious about most things, but there was one thing, and it was Brady's idea that we should get 1 veto each per book, where it's no questions asked, just 1 veto.
Is this the Randy Beaver one?
It's
It's the Randy
it's
Beaver
not.
one.
Huh?
Her name is
Beaver.
Her last name is Beaver.
Beaver.
Yes, it's
Yes.
Harriet Beaver.
Harriet
Okay,
Beaver.
so their real estate agent, I named her Randy Beaver, and I thought it was a really funny name.
So it's really funny. But wait a second. So remember wait a second. Yes, it is funny, but in Kathleen, you're the one, you pointed it out, and I was like, see, Kathleen pointed out. No, but I can't do this. My dad's name is Randy Hammer. Dr. Randy Hammer.
That's his real name, and
he's a sex
He's
therapist.
a sex therapist.
And so, I felt like it was making the name Randy a joke, and it's my dad's name, and I was literally, not comfortable with it, and Brady's like, I love it, it's so funny.
Because
And then,
the joke was that I'll just tell you what the joke was so that you guys can laugh. So the joke was that Blake picks Randy Beaver to be her real estate agent because if anybody would dare to put that on their business cards, she thinks that they have the balls to sell the house.
and so we ended up with Harriet Beaver, so she could be Harry, and
Her name is
anyway. So it was
Harriet Beaver.
So it was a compromise, but Kathleen read our book, and she's like, oh, Randy Beaver, Randy Hammer. I'm like, see what you're not doing. And so that was my veto, and that's the only.
And it was okay.
That was the only veto. And now you guys know.
how are we on time, Annie? Are we good?
Great, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe,
Anyone else
a few
have
more
a question?
questions? Yeah.
Really quiet.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, Amy.
I don't want to give any spoilers away because I've had the joy of reading this book and it's fabulous. But what happens to the dog?
At the end, you mean?
At the end, he's fine.
He's okay?
He's fine. There's a dog that Blake is dog sitting for the summer, and cute Noah. They get one of these, right?
Yeah, if you guys come-
get one of these. So this bookmark we had our publisher make for us, and it has all the nicknames that Noah calls the dog throughout the course. So if you guys have dogs, you know that their names morph over time, right? So he gets called everything but Max throughout the course of the book. So that's what that is. But it's not their dog. It's not Blake's dog. And so at the end of the summer, he has to go back to his family in Liston Heights. But it was actually our editor that said at the end, we think Blake needs a dog. She needs to get her own dog. So we added that in because it was true. She needed her own dog.
And yeah, if anybody comes up to say hi to us after, you will get a bookmark. And also, this was my mom's idea, and Brady had a version of it. So these are our copies of the book, and we're going to sign books, but we would love to have you guys sign our copy, kind of like as a guest book that we can have, just to remember like our first book and our first book tour. So we hope you guys will come by and say hi.
And if we know you from online, like, tell us who you are, because it's so hard when you just know people from tiny little circles. So.
Just a question. You mentioned that reviewers didn't really like Cat, and I was just going to ask you. I know that as women authors and as someone who reads a lot in books about women, there's all these questions about likability, and I was just curious how you felt about that. And as you write, do you have to think about that? And were you worried about Cat as her likability, or how did you sort of think about that?
Brady was. So, and I think that it's because like she thinks so much through that, and she's the smart one of our partnership.
Shush, that's not true.
It's very true. So in the beginning, we have Kat volunteering, and we have her doing something where it's kind of like the Save the Cat thing, where you want to, if you give a character who's hard to like, a moment where they are doing something good, then it lets you see like their heart, and so that is something that and it's important to Kat, and so that comes up through that, and so yeah, I mean, people are really hard on women, and there are a lot of reviewers again who don't like her, but then they appreciate her growth, and I think that that's the important thing. And as long as yes, they may not be likable, but if by the end they kind of redeem themselves, then hopefully that counts. But we shouldn't have to be likable, right? All the time?
It is really interesting, though, because we wrote Noah is kind of a jerk at first, and he gets a big pass because he's hot.
Because he's hot.
But it's not fair. It's not fair.
Yeah, that's true.
Allison, we've known each other for a little bit.
Very long time.
How hard was it for you to write the first steamy?
You need to tell them about our tradition that we have.
So my other books are Fade to Black. It's awkward. It's like there are people who are going to read it that know you, and it's just weird. And people are going to assume that that what you write is it's just weird. So I think it's weird. But so Brady and I, it's a scene you actually started writing one at your kitchen table with your kids, and you're like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So we tend to do it we tend to write those scenes in the evening. For me, it's randomly been Friday or Saturday nights. I've got a very full, exciting life, especially during the pandemic. And I'll tell Brady, okay, it's about to happen, and she'll message me. We message each other steamy, inappropriate gifts.
Is it going okay?
How's it going? What's happening?
Did they do it yet?
And we send each other little clips and things, and we send each other gifts and steamy gifts, and it's fun. And then
it is fun.
But yeah, it's awkward and makes me really uncomfortable. Thanks.
It's funny though, because in the romance world, this is a very tame. It's tame. In the romance, readers will be like, yeah, it was good, but it was not. They would not call it steamy.
I think it's pretty steamy, but I think that, but I also think, and this is something to talk about because you said romance readers in this book, Kathleen, again, you were one of our first readers. You were it can't be romance because you don't meet the love interest for 100 pages.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
And we talked about it, and we're but it's not
it's really not a romance.
There are 2 romances in it, so it's 2 romances for the price of 1. But the heart of the story is about the sisters, and it's like a bonus. So if you come to the book for romance, you will get it twice. Anyway, or 2. But if you come for there's been and again, I read reviews and I know I shouldn't, but people who come for romance are really they're happy with the sister element. People that come for the sister element get the romance, and so it really kind of crosses genre. They're calling it a beach read, which beach is in the title. So.
And the sisters do have to fall in love with each other too. They really have to, so it works on a lot of levels. Okay, are we ready for a lightning round? Okay, let's do it. Okay, first question I'm going to ask to both of you, then we're going to alternate.
Okay.
They tried to give me a list of questions to ask them.
You're helpful. It's helpful.
That's not how this is going to go. Okay, we'll start with Allison. Allison, 3 words to describe Brady.
Amazing, smart, really talented.
Words. Cheerleader. Super positive. And pithy. She comes up with really pithy sentences, and I love that about her. Pithy.
Yeah. They both have been big critique. I'm not the critique partner, but they have, so we're not going steady, but they have each come in to critique my stuff too, and I agree, pithy works well.
Which we love. Like everybody, if you came for us and haven't read Kathleen's book, they're so good.
She's such a talented writer. We are in awe of her.
Okay, Brady, favorite thing about Kat?
She's amazing.
She's sassy.
Alison, favorite thing about Blake?
She doesn't take any BS.
Brady, best place to write?
In my office.
She's got a brand new office, and it's so cute, and I'm
Beautiful.
so jealous. I live in 600 square feet in Chicago, and her office is beautiful.
Can we see the office on Instagram?
Part of it. I haven't done a full tour. It just barely got done.
Okay.
But I'll share it sometime.
Alison, favorite word?
That's really hard. There's so many.
I think what word do you like?
Just.
That's when we have to cut out, right? Cut out all the just.
That's a word that I use a lot.
So do I. It's the worst.
Sometimes that happens, you'll go through your book at the end and you're like, how many times did I say shoulder? And you search and you're like, 95 times.
So I'm writing a book with another friend, and he calls out all my nods and smiles. I nod and smile a lot. And the first draft
Take
is okay.
deep breaths.
Yeah.
That we didn't know we were. We
Never. We don't do that. We don't do that.
There's a funny joke that we have in our online writers group. Several of us are here, and we always joke about if you find the line, "She let out a breath she didn't know she was holding." It's a line you see a lot in books, and
It's not true.
Yeah.
You know you're holding.
You know you're holding your breath.
all right, we are at Brady. Best home improvement skill.
Mine?
Yeah.
I'm really good at painting cabinets, and we painted our kitchen cabinets during the pandemic.
So can I tell a funny story about that? Kat knows nothing about home improvement, and neither do I. And so one of the scenes in the book, Blake is painting the primer on the cabinets. And she gets mad because Kat comes back and is like, I was supposed to pick the paint color. And Blake is like, it's primer. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that either. I'm like, well, she knows about the makeup.
Yeah,
on the
Blake's
primer.
like, don't you know what primer is? And Kat's like, yeah, that she's thinking about makeup primer.
Which is kind of the same thing.
Kind of the same thing.
Allison, what's your random talent?
Oh, goodness. Why did you give me all the hard questions?
Sorry.
Do I have?
Do you sing karaoke?
I do sing karaoke. I like karaoke, and I'm really good at Candy Crush.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Brady, best last book you read. So last favorite book. Most recent favorite book.
I read The Unsinkable Greta James. That's what it's called, right? Yeah, by Elizabeth Smith. Is that her name? It was really, really great. It's a father and daughter go on a cruise. The mother died, and it's really lovely. You should read it. I really liked it. Unsinkable Greta James.
Allison, favorite genre.
Ooh, so they say to write the book you want to read, and I feel like I do that. I love stories about family friendship. I love a book that will make me cry, even if it's happy tears. If I'm moved enough to cry and I cry, I've cried at commercials. That's maybe a talent. I can cry at anything. I love a book that makes me cry.
Okay, now you can both answer this one at the same time. Would you rather spend a week in Destin with Blake or Kat?
Kat.
Blake.
Kat would have more fun.
I know, but Blake she's just very practical. I appreciate that.
Brady, your celebrity crush.
You don't know?
No, I don't mind.
You know, I recently
Somebody
saw
tall.
Top Gun, right? And I watched the original with my kids, but the day before. And I was reminded how Tom Cruise was my celebrity crush all growing up. I would not say anymore, but I will say that teenage Brady, Tom Cruise.
I will say that I teach at an all-girls private Catholic school where Aaron and I went to school when we were younger, and I talked about seeing Top Gun, and one of my sweetest, nicest girls, who probably says the rosary on Wednesday morning, said that Tom Cruise was a DILF. She actually said that out loud.
Can I share mine?
You could tell it was like May 25th already, like I'd lost control.
So can I answer that one too? Because that's a fun
Yes,
one.
go ahead.
So I'll tell my kid one and my like current one, who's been my current one for a very long time. When I was a kid, I liked Fred Savage. I know, such a nerd. And now Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
Like, he's my type.
Okay. All right, same question
So
for
cute.
both of you. Only got two more. What's something awesome?
You.
Ice cream.
The fact that there's so many people here.
And what's next for Allie Brady?
We just turned in a draft of our second book.
And what's it about? Give us a little preview.
It's about two sisters
What?
who inherited their grandmother's PR agency. So she passed away, and they have this. They were groomed to run this PR agency, and it is in trouble. They have let it fall into wreck and ruin, and they think they're going to lose it until we have not practiced this. An eccentric self-help guru says, hey, you can be my PR company for my new program that's coming out, but you have to follow my weird challenge that I give everybody. It's a 12-week weird challenge, and I'm going to give each of you the challenge, and you have to do it.
So speaking of Easter eggs, there's an Easter egg in this book for the next book because
Yes.
our eccentric self-help guru is the podcast that Kat is listening
Podcast
to.
host, yes.
So
That's awesome.
she has a whole thing about crushing your comfort zone.
Yes.
So each of the sisters has to go through a challenge to crush their comfort zone. Should we share their challenges? Or is that enough?
Sure, we'll tell you. One girl has to go on a bunch of dates. The other one has to run in like a Tough Mudder style race.
So one has to do something with interpersonal growth, and one has to do something, or interpersonal strength, and the other has to do something with physical strength. And so they both help each other, and again, they both have love interests,
Yep.
and it's about their relationship, their identity, and
Yep.
their relationship as sisters.
Yep.
But it's different because they live together, they work together. And so in this book, like, they didn't overlap a lot, but in this one it was a lot more challenging to write because both of our characters are in so many of the other scenes.
That's awesome. Okay, when is that book going to be out?
June 2023, I think.
Probably sometime next summer. We actually, funny story, this book was supposed to come out next summer,
The Beach Trap was.
The Beach Trap.
Yeah.
And we thought it was a typo because our editor sent us something about like June 2022. We're like, you mean 2023? And they're
Yeah.
like, oh no, we moved it up a year. We're
But
like,
we didn't
"What?"
tell you. They did not tell us. It was in
No.
our, I think it was in our contract when we finally got our contract, which was like last year at this time.
And we were like, yay, but oh my God, we have a lot to do.
We had to finish the book.
But we did it.
Okay. Well, we hope you come back here next summer when your next book is out. We can't wait. So thank you so much.
Thank
Get
you,
the book, read the
everybody.
book. Yay!
Thank you so much.